Higher tariffs on Chinese goods did little to ease trade tensions between China and the U.S. Challenges to trade relations between the world's biggest economies are nothing new, though. Japan and the U.S. were in the same boat 3 decades ago. In the 1980s, Japan and the U.S. had talks to smooth trade relations, resulting in the 1985 Plaza Accord. The deal touched on currency exchange rates, including a 50% depreciation of the U.S. dollar against Japanese yen. But the recessionary effects of the strengthened yen in Japan's export-dependent economy led to a Japanese asset price bubble of the late 1980s. It progressed into a protracted period of deflation and low growth in Japan, known as the so-called lost decade. Earlier, I sat down with Yasuo Fukuda, the former Prime Minister of Japan. He shared his thoughts about China-U.S. trade frictions, as well as historical and current trade relations of Japan and the U.S. Take a look. What is your comment about the latest temporary result of U.S.-China trade discussions?
米国は中国に対してこの数年かなり厳しい対応をしてきている。
You see, the attitude of the United States against China has been very harsh in recent years. The trade war reflects the historic changes in the U.S. understanding of China. Well, that change is not necessarily a bad thing for China. After entering the 21st century, China has become a very large country, a strong country, and it has competed with the United States in many fields. With this in mind, China may not be a threat to the U.S. now, but for the U.S. it will definitely be a danger in the future. You see, the Sino-U.S. trade war is an inevitable result. Such a conflict between China and the United States is likely to happen at any time. Japan has gone through such a thing in the past.
Talking about Japan experiences to a certain extent what's going on between China and the United States now, it's very interesting because some have been having the impression that Japan would kowtowing to whatever demands that the U.S. would put out there for Tokyo over the past 20 to 30 years. But of course, maybe the Japanese see it a very different way. How would you interpret your approach over the decades dealing with the United States, particularly since the agreement on trade decades ago, which have a bigger impact on your economy for 20 years at least?
もう今から35年、プラザ合意は35年前になります。
The signing of the Plaza Accord happened 35 years ago. There was a big debate in Japan about what kind of route Japan chose to pursue in relations with the United States. Since the signing of the Plaza Accord, Japan's economy has been greatly affected by the appreciation of the yen. However, I think that the support of choosing to sign the Plaza Accord at that time was quite strong, because in the past, Japan had made great efforts to develop the economy and wanted to catch up with the Western countries. Probably around 1981, Japan's auto exports to the United States have caused concern in the United States. Then some automakers like Nissan consciously reduced exports to the United States. But the Japanese government did not order Nissan to do so. The situation that time was the car manufacturer worried that excessive exports to the United States will affect relations between Japan and the United States. But in that end, Japan and the U.S. still signed this agreement.
You said earlier that you had a lot of respect for the agreement signed 35 years ago, and yet we all know that had a huge impact on the Japanese economy. Many believe negatively for the past 20 years at least. And you were the Prime Minister, you know that, because the economy of the time were in a very difficult situation, but you yourself could not have any control of it. That's all part of the result of that agreement and the implementation of that agreement. So when you say now you're interested in the result of U.S.-China trade negotiations, how are you looking at it with the Japanese experience and lessons particularly?
プラザ合意はこれはね極めてドラスティックな 為替レートの変更を伴ったんで
The
す。
Plaza Accord is a complex and comprehensive decision-making process. The direct result of the Plaza Accord is the appreciation of the yen. The impact of the appreciation on industrial SMEs is very serious, because SMEs support the development of large enterprises, and it all resulted in the Japanese economy's problems. Of course, the Plaza Accord was the decision of the government at that time. At that time, the overcapacity caused by it produced more hot money, and also there was too much money in Japan and no place in the country to spend, so the Japanese began to buy overseas assets. They all went to the United States to buy buildings, and that made the Americans concerned. But now looking back, Japan's behavior then is a failure.
経済が沈滞化すると、そういう傾向になりました。で、そこでね、日本の政府は不況にびっくりしまして。
The Plaza Accord is actually in the direction of the requirements of the United States. But the result is that the Japanese began to buy American assets in the U.S., and that led the United States concerns about Japan. As the number of purchases increased, it caused the United States to even resent Japan. The Plaza Accord and its subsequent results are a very unsuccessful experience for Japan. Returning to the topic of how the Chinese government should learn from Japan's lessons after signing the Plaza Accord, I sincerely hope that the Chinese government can make a wise decision in consideration of the world economic situation.
考えなければいけないことも当然あるはずです。それはね、40年前に日本とアメリカの間でその経済摩擦がありましたと。
40 years ago, Japan-U.S. trade friction escalated. This time, the United States chose to oppose China, and Sino-U.S. trade friction ensued. In this case, I hope the United States should consider whether it has changed, because maybe 40 years later, there will be another new country who may become the target of the U.S.
また激突しなければいけないという事態が起こりうるわけです。
As far as I understand, that there is a U.S.-Japan trade negotiation going on. Right after the temporary pause of the U.S.-China trade negotiation, the U.S. trade rep announced the schedule for the U.S.-Japan talk. What do you make of the general principle that Japan might want to hold in hand in terms of this kind of trade negotiation, given the fact that there are apparently disagreements between Japan and the United States about whether it's unilateral or multilateral world?
まあ今日本に対する要求、これはやはり貿易黒字が日本は多いということ、これは同じです。ただ
I don't know what kind of requirements the United States will ask for Japan, because Japan's economy volume is much smaller than China's. Probably only 1/10 of China's volume. In the current situation, for the Japan-U.S. trade negotiations, I really wouldn't know what kind of results will come out. Last year, the United States withdrew from the TPP. I don't really know what President Trump wants to do. The next negotiation is the real key. At the same time, we should also look at Sino-Japanese relations, Japan-U.S. relations, and Sino-U.S. relations from a long-term perspective. I especially hope to keep those relations on an even keel. Besides, wisdom is necessary in diplomacy. It is not that if I have power, if my country is strong, then I can make demands. The next step should be the two sides or several sides negotiate and make a sensible and correct choice.
その相談をしっかりやってほしいと、賢い協議をしてほしいと思いますよ。
I love the way you said it, balance. But how? That's an interesting thing, isn't it? Is the balance you're talking about being described by some experts as Japan's strategic allied relationship with the United States continuing, while at the same time seek pragmatic cooperation and economic and trade gain, mainly with China? Is that the balance that you're talking about? Or what kind of balance are you actually referring to?
それはね、もちろんそうです。米中関係というけども。
China-U.S. relations are related to Japan, and Japan-U.S. relations are related to China. And these relations will have an important impact on Europe and South Korea.
合意したとしても、それがそういう関係する日本だとか
America first, this slogan is not right, because everyone should negotiate to establish a relationship, and this negotiation process requires the wise judgment of the leaders.
It seems that you're emphasizing on the role of leadership. But besides that, there are a lot of pragmatic issues. Today, you are here in China to attend a conference between China and Japan on pragmatic cooperation. So let me ask very briefly about pragmatic cooperation.
The TPP was originally proposed by the United States, but the U.S. withdrew later and then proposed to replace the TPP with other mechanisms, such as RCEP. You see, economic stability is very beneficial to the world situation, so I think it is positive.
So it will speed up?
Well, it is not necessary to speed up, just need to in accordance with the pace of negotiations, in accordance with natural development. This would be fine, because development also needs more understanding from all sides, then move forward on the basis of full negotiations.
I noticed two interesting phenomena since we talk about cooperation. One is Japan and China has agreed to develop the third market with $30 billion possibly investing into a third country or economy. But on the other hand, we also noticed that Japan, together with India, the United States, the Philippines, over the past few days have been conducting joint military exercises in South China Sea, which is quite a sensitive button for China. How should we understand the both constructive, while at the same time, what some describe as concerning events going on at the same time? Is that the balance, Mr. Prime Minister, that you are trying to illustrate Japan today is having in mind?
You may feel that Japan's policy will be worrisome. You see, Japan is developing relations with many countries at the same time. So is China. Of course, China-Japan relations are very important. It is also needed to develop relations with other countries. When crafting foreign policy, a country needs to take a holistic view instead of looking at specific examples one by one. For example, we cannot say something is anti-China-Japan cooperation or something is a manifestation of China-Russia cooperation. I just mentioned the issue of the Japan-U.S. alliance. It is obvious that the Japan-U.S. alliance is a military one. However, Japan has no alliance with China. There is a saying that Japan and the United States have an alliance, while Japan and China have a partnership.
The last question, Mr. Prime Minister. Now, the Chinese side, the Chinese President Xi Jinping praised highly of the achievements of the last emperor of Japan. And now Japan has entered into a new era. The question really is also related to what we discussed today. Is Japan going to have a more sophisticated approach toward China? Will the way Japan is dealing with China, China-Japan relations, Japan looking at the world, evolving and changing as a result? Mr. Prime Minister, your wisdom.
You
see, the Reiwa era is a historic transformation and a historical development, which has little impact on economic development. Just as New Year's Day means a new hope and a new atmosphere, the transformation from Heisei era to Reiwa has the same meaning. The Reiwa era developed on the basis of introspection on the Heisei era, because the Showa era is an unfortunate one, a time of wars. Emperor Akihito very much cherished his father Hirohito's thinking about history. Emperor Akihito himself also has to think a lot about the future of Japan. He gave the nation a new direction, that is, Japan must develop as a peaceful country, and his son Emperor Naruhito, who is the emperor now in the Reiwa era, can also understand his father. It will be reflected in his actions and behaviors.
Our exclusive interview with the former Japanese Prime Minister on the sideline of a conference in Beijing about pragmatic cooperation between Japan and China, organized by Chinese Academy of Social Sciences. And that is all the time we have for today. If you'd like to see more, try to find us World Insight CGTN into your search engine, or check out our YouTube channel. You can also follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Sina Weibo. From me, Tian Wei, and everyone on the World Insight team, thanks for watching, and tune in again next time for more insights across China and